Okay, today's question is, how can or should we deal with the pandemic and mandated laws if they infringe liberties and human rights? So how can or should we deal with the pandemic and the mandated laws if they infringe upon our liberties and human rights? For example, a mandatory vaccination. Thank you for being here with us today, and we would say this is an issue which is on the minds of millions of people on your planet right now, because there is a very strong sense to do what is right for the community, and then there's also an overriding sense that what we're being told is right for the community is not what is actually right for the community. This is a growing mindset on your planet at this time. And so while at the moment this appears to be a difficult decision, because there is a great sense of desire to conform, and at the same time there is a rising feeling of the mandated conformity is not for the goodness of the human race, but instead for the goodness of those who wish to dominate and rule over the human race. However, this feeling is going to change such that it will start to diminish in sense of conflict, because what is happening is this feeling that something is not right, this sensation, intuitive sense that there is another agenda at play which is not about anything in service to humanity, but instead in subjugation of humanity. And as this sensation grows, the desire to conform is going to become less and less. And so the balance is shifting. And so while at this time there is a feeling of conflict, like what is the right solution, a time is coming, which is rapidly approaching, for some they're already there, and that is that they will not conform. There will be a line that they will not cross, and that line for many people will be the mandating of vaccinations for themselves, their family members and their children. And so when this point arrives, although at this time there is this sense of conflict, how will they be able to deal with that situation when it arises? Because it's assuming that the way you feel now is going to be similar to the way you feel then, and also in a larger population sense, the way that everybody feels now is going to be the way that everybody feels then. However, it is a rising sense, it is a growing intuition, it is a blossoming of the awakening and wisdom that comes with that process. And so when the vaccination is at hand, so to say, and they are beginning to roll out this final phase of their plan, the sense of conflict will not be the same as it is now. In fact, if we look at it from a mathematical sense, we could say that if you were to extrapolate the rising in dissent, the rising in non-acquiescence, then if the vaccine is a year away or a year and a half to 2 years away, as it has been said by some of the experts that are orchestrating or part of the orchestration of this event, then we could say that by that time the sense of denial will be so great, the sense of we shall not submit, we shall not acquiesce, will be so pronounced and so universal that there will be little doubt. And knowing what to do will no longer be a sense of, is this the right thing to do? Is it the right thing to do to reject a system which everybody else appears to be adopting, which other people appear to be accepting? So it will be a much easier situation to deal with. You will not have this sense of conflict. You will not have the doubt. You will not look around you at your fellow humans and feel that you are going against the tide, or that you are non-conforming in a way which makes you an outsider or a pariah to your fellow human race. In fact, quite the opposite is eventually going to come about, where those who don't deny the vaccine, who don't refuse to acquiesce, those are the ones that are going to be more likely to be perceived as on the outside, as being the pariahs, as being those who are being a detriment to humanity. And when this point is reached, only those who are most entrenched in the spell, who are most committed to the illusion, who are the least awoken to the concept of a unified malevolence pitting itself against humanity for the purpose of subjugating humanity and humanity's progeny into the future. And for many of those people, the overwhelming pressure from the greater community will be enough to break them from their conformity to the narrative which is delivered through the media and the cultural pillars, and they will then go to the narrative which has become the grassroots people's choice, the actual natural extension of the wisdom of the human race, which is derived organically through the process of unity. And they will continue to conform, but conform to that narrative. And there will be some who will, to their final breath, if that comes to it, never break free from the narrative. And that is their role, that is the choices they have made, and from the higher self perspective, we do not hold anything against these people, because this is the role they have chosen to play, because this is the function they have chosen in this time of awakening. It is their desire to experience that particular experience. And them choosing that particular experience gives a service to those who have chosen the experience of awakening and realizing that there is a unified malevolence pitting itself against the human race and against all of the inevitable blossoming of the human race into a new species, so to say. So it's all part of the grand mosaic, and those who choose to stay with the narrative are still as deserving of love as those who have chosen to unite with humanity against the darkness. Because ultimately the polarity is just an illusion, it is just a game, it is just an opportunity for the one to have the unique experiences which are possible on this planet, and all those experiences cover a diverse array of beingness, and so all of those are being played out at this time. And as humanity approaches the cliff edge, so to speak, or the launch point, the diversity in these states of being will become their most pronounced. The most pronounced they have ever been in the history of your species on this planet. it will become a stark difference to the point where when the majority of human race steps off the cliff into the abyss, such that they now are floating on the power of the non-physical infinity of who they are, and no longer requiring the infrastructure of the ground, so to say, which is the dependence on the three-dimensionality of the physical experience. The diversity will be so pronounced at that stage between what is considered to be humans that it would be almost like there will be two different races of humanity. The version of humanity which is primarily existing in history, much less so now because most people now are not the same type of human that existed here even 100 years ago. But those who continue to be very embedded in the narrative, and those who continue to shape the narrative because they are in the, shall we say, bubble of darkness that has a incentive, that has a goal of maintaining control and stifling the birth of the new humanity, they will remain a very colourless and limited dimensional version of humanity, and the rest of humanity that don't acquiesce and that release the darkness and go to the light and allow this natural organic process of ascension to occur will be a very different species of humanity, and so different in fact that in a side-by-side profile for a third species perhaps that has not been aware of what has taken place on this planet at this time could, in the very first moments of casting their inquisition upon this place, could say there appears to be two different species with sentience on this planet. Two different hominid species with sentience on this planet at this time. And then when they look closer, they would eventually realise, if they have the technology, which we assume they would if they've come here to observe you, that there was originally the same species, and at some stage there was a fork. And some of the species evolved into a completely new type of species, and the original species has remained. It will literally be that stark indifference. And when this does occur, those who ascend, those who become the new human race, will have nothing but greater compassion, greater love, greater care and concern for those who have not chosen to ascend. And so it will not be a decimation of this lesser type of humanity. It will be an allowing for them to be as they have chosen to be. And the allowing will be from a state of compassion, understanding and forthright love that this is the choices they have made, and so it is with divine allowing and divine respect of the choices that are made from the higher self perspective that this is what they want to play out, and so that is what will be allowed to play out. Because every journey is sacred, every choice is holy, every experience is divine. And so it is just to allow. So, to go back to the original question, we understand there is some nuance there. There is a bit of a time lag between that point where the predominant feeling will be, we shall not acquiesce, we shall not submit. And so in this time in between, there is a bit more of a concern of how will you deal with the situations where you are required to submit in some way. we would say to be defiant in a way which is not going to make your life unlivable. Because what is happening now, there is a building energy. So there is a wave which is building, a energetic impulse, a blast that is accruing the energy required for that to be unleashed, and that is occurring right now. So it is not essential now that you be so vocal that you create difficulty in your life. Continue to speak in a way which is defiant. Continue to share opinion which is do not acquiesce. Continue to hold the philosophy that what is occurring now is not what is best for humanity, and it is not something which is authentic, and is not something which is about protecting humanity, but is instead about stifling humanity to protect those who are afraid of the greater humanity which is on the horizon. If you continue to hold this philosophy and hold this energy, then that is going to build and continue to contribute to the momentum that at this time on your planet millions and millions and millions are adding to on a daily basis. And so we would say you do not have to be the one who makes a spectacle and creates the situation where your life has been torn asunder because this is the stand that you have taken right now. There are people who are making this choice right now, and so it does not have to be you that makes this choice. But it's important that you continue to be vocal. It's important you continue to share and maintain the philosophy that what is occurring on this planet right now is not for the betterment of humanity. And then as this energy builds and the feeling spreads and there is more conformity, we would say, but organic, it's conformity which has arisen from within everyone. So it is not conformity, but instead it is unity. So it will appear as conformity, and it will be told to you that it is conformity by those who choose to pit themselves against humanity. And they will tell you that you are conforming to something which is false, and that you are having these opinions because you are being deceived and manipulated and brainwashed and so on. But understand that it is not conformity that brings you to this position that what is occurring is not organic in terms of this pandemic and what is being thrust upon the human race, but instead has been derived from a dark intention. This is not a conformist idea, but this is a recognition of inner wisdom. It's a rising and allowing of intuition. And so what will inevitably occur is not conformity, but unity. Because now all of you are being led from a place which is internal and which is connected to a source of wisdom which you all share. And so it is not conforming, but it is unifying from this universal power, this universal understanding that we are all one and we are in this together. So it will not be conformity, it will be unity, which is something entirely different. And so this is the process between now and this later stage. And it is up to the individual to decide how courageous you wish to be. And for some it will be easier to be courageous than it will be for others. So for people who are in a position where they are financially stable and they do not have a situation where their non-conformity is going to create problems for their family. For those people, if they choose, it is less of a risk for them to say no, making a stand now, and possibly put themselves at risk of having some amenity which is provided through the government being denied to them, shut off. Whereas a person who is perhaps living in poverty and they still have children at school, for them it's going to be more of a challenge to take that position. So it's not expected that everybody takes the same stand of non-compliance prior to this moment which we're speaking of, where there is going to be the great defiance, where everybody will be more likely to unify, and the people on this planet will know when that time arrives. Trust your intuition on this. And so in between now and then, do what feels right and appropriate for the place in your life where you are right now, which makes sense to the environment and the levels of prosperity and those that you're responsible for, that it makes sense within that paradigm. And if we are all in this together, and if we are all human beings united to achieve the awakening and ascension of the species, then it is with the nuance that we allow each other to be the version of this impulse which is most suited and adapted to their present conditions. So there is no shame and guilt if you are in a circumstance where you are likely to lose it all if you take too much of a stand. Instead, it's energetic, which is most important. So continue to be energetically in a sense of non-compliance, be energetically in a sense of raising the unification energy of the human race, where we are in this together. That is the sense that you want to share. And then when the time comes, it will be easier for those even who are in a position where they feel if they were to lose their access to some type of providence given to them by those who also choose to dominate them, the conundrum will not be as daunting as it appears to be now, because the energetic shift will be even much greater than it is at this time, and so the answer will be much easier, and the non-compliance, the defiance of this final act, which is the vaccination, will be much easier. And so those who are taking a stand now will continue to take their stand then, and those now who are in the mindset that this is wrong but afraid to take a stand, and those who are not even awakened to it yet by this later stage, they also will be awakened and taking a stand. This gathering is rapidly expanding, and it will continue to rapidly expand until very soon most of humanity will be within this new paradigm of awareness. So have no shame or guilt with the choices that you're making. If you're continuing to contribute energetically, then that is enough to bring about the changes on this planet, because your time will come to non-acquiesce. Your time will come to take a stand, and you will know when that time has arrived. Thank you. God bless you. This is an exciting time on your planet, and with great joy and admiration we observe, as do so many others. Enjoy the journey. Thank you.